morning, very early morning to you. Happy end of 2023 and looking forward to 2024. This is the last Seek Sustainable Japan talk show podcast for 2023. And I'm so excited to have my cohort once again, Tova Kinoka in Tokyo. And I'm JJWalsh here in Hiroshima. And this is our last of the short takes. Thanks so much for joining so early, Tova.
You're welcome. And I can't believe 2023 is at an end. That's a bit frightening. It's gone very fast.
Yeah. Before we dive into our top three, we each of us have selected three things that really stood out for us this year. But Tova, what's your overall feeling at the end of 2023? Are you feeling like we made some positive changes? Have we made progress? We just came off of COVID, so this was a big year, of course, for travel. We saw the borders open and everything.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, obviously there have been highs and lows throughout the year. There's been a lot of talk and controversy around COP and the fact it was hosted by an oil state and all this kind of stuff. But I think in general, I'm seeing positive momentum and an acceleration, I think, a sort of building of awareness, both at individual level, but also at societal and particularly in corporates like we work with, really increasing awareness of the importance of sustainability and the fact that this is not some passing trend that's going away. This is mainstream. This is the future, and we all need to be on board with this. That seems to be gathering steam. And now we need to see the actions to go alongside that awareness, right? So I'm excited to see, how this continues to build and to drive action moving forward.
Yeah,
What about
absolutely.
you?
And I think because the borders have opened, I've started doing guiding tours. I've started doing more travel destination consulting. So I am seeing the positive influence of international visitors as well,
Yeah.
who are expecting more because we know Japan is a little bit under par in terms of like daily consciousness. How do we think about packaging? How do we think about sustainability? And international travelers coming in kind of expecting this and asking for it is having that good positive influence. And so I'm really encouraged and hopeful for 2024, and
Yeah.
hopefully this will continue and more businesses will see, wow, this is an opportunity
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
more sustainable, right?
Yeah, very much so. And in a similar vein, we're seeing, particularly coming out from Europe, a lot of regulatory changes, sort of ramping up really in the last sort of year or so, which are driving businesses, if they want to do business outside Japan, they know that they need to be on board with these things now. So that's also a sort of a positive driver, if you like.
Yeah. Well, shall I start? Do you mind if I start? Mine starts with A. So I thought, top of the alphabet. I have noticed just a boom of YouTube and social media channels all focused on how do we renovate old houses? How do we make use of the Akiya? How do we go and live in the countryside happily, right?
Yeah.
So many fabulous, well-made personal experiences of people who are renovating old houses, living in the countryside. So not just, some of the companies that are like flipping houses. You can have a
Yeah.
guest house super free, like really cheap or super free. But these are people who actually moved into the rural areas.
Hmm.
And so for me, that's so much more important because you see them developing the community, being part of their neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these rural areas are really struggling for population as a lot of people move away. And these houses have good bones, they're still
Yeah.
good to renovate. They are great materials to use as a base and to bring it up to a comfortable quality of life. So
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
was really exciting. So Akia, for me, this year, I really saw an increase of enthusiasm. So I'll put all the great links to YouTube and social media below if
Yeah.
anybody is interested.
And that's really nice to see. So in a country where the general trend is to knock down older buildings and to build brand new, right? That's the norm around here. And I've always found it very strange coming from Europe, where we have very, very old buildings, and old buildings are seen as more interesting and more valuable. I always found that very sort of strange here, that in many ways in Japan, old things are really valued and revered, and then houses would just be pulled down and they'd build new. And I think, well, what's that about? So it's really nice to see that perhaps that mindset's beginning to shift, and people are seeing the value of these old buildings.
Yeah.
Like you say, that they've still got so much to give. So good
Absolutely.
to
And
see.
even on a personal level, I've been looking into how can we do a renovation to make it more like a passive house. Like we don't
Yeah.
have to build a passive house from new, but we
No.
could do with more insulation. It's pretty cold in winter, it's pretty
Yes.
hot in summer. And so there are companies that help you do that. You don't have to knock
Mm,
down your house and start again. Use
exactly.
what you already have, which is more sustainable, and
Mm.
add another layer, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Very much.
there's some exciting new businesses. Hopefully, I'll be able to
Mhm.
introduce in the new year. Natasha has joined us from YouTube. Great to see you. Hello, friends. Lord Crunk, I'd love to renovate Anakia. I need an investment passport. Yeah. Well, you can get a really good quality house in a beautiful area for not very much. But you're right, there's a lot of other big costs when you're coming to a
Mm.
new country. How do you work? A lot of people who do this, they end up working online,
Yeah.
keeping their job and doing telecommuting, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Japan generally has good Wi-Fi coverage wherever you are. So even if you're in a pretty rural area, that's probably going to be an option. So it's good.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Do you want to go next? Tell us one of yours, Tova.
Me. All right. So my top one this year is My Mizu. Seeing My Mizu, which is a wonderful social impact organization that I'm very proud to say I've been supporting right since the beginning, when they first sort of started looking for funding to get off the ground. Um, they've just gone from strength to strength. So they started sort of right at the beginning of COVID, when it was really difficult to get anything moving and everything had to be online. And but really the last sort of year or so, they've just ramped up amazingly. And I think they're a great example of how a small organization can take a really simple idea. So for them, it's using refillable water bottles rather than single-use PET bottles, um, and just really drive a movement with that. They've got all these organizations now in Japan. I think the latest was more than 2,500 um, companies, cafes, etc., restaurants, shops that you can go into and request to have your water bottle filled up, just with the perfectly drinkable tap water. Um, they do beach cleans and things to raise awareness of plastics and microplastics and stuff like that. But they've also started doing some big collaborations, and this year they've got a huge one just starting up with Kirin, one of the massive drinks makers in Japan, really huge organization. And they're partnering with them on sustainability innovation projects. So that is really wonderful to see that, that they've started just from passion and an idea, and they've grown it to the point where, a global drinks giant is saying, well, actually, we want to partner with you guys because you're good, and you bring something we haven't got. Excuse me, my voice is going. So it's really wonderful to see their organization really building momentum here on an issue like tackling plastics and ocean plastics in particular, and building the awareness, building the engagement, and then getting the attention of the big guns and getting them involved. So that's fantastic to see.
Yeah, absolutely. My Mizu is doing great work. And isn't it fantastic to see them still going and thriving, right? Like
Yes.
some of the
Yeah.
great initiatives we saw years ago, they've closed up shop. They couldn't make it
Yeah.
work. But
Hmm.
my Mizu is doing such a public service, but also
Yeah.
great for businesses. I always
Yeah.
suggest it when I do consulting for destinations. Why
Mm.
don't you have every place that you want
Everything. Oh,
visitors to go to
yeah.
offering free water, and then you get
Yes.
free on the app. You get this free listing, right?
Mhm.
So it's such a great thing for the host, but also the
Yeah.
customer as well.
Very much. And if you're a school or a company listening, they will go in and they'll do talks on ocean plastics and conservation, and ideas about what your sort of school or company can do, and initiate projects and stuff around that. So do get in touch with them. They're an amazing bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. My number two, I know you mentioned the Japan Times. It's great to see
Yes.
a big major newspaper, which is having a sustainable Japan section. That's fabulous to see. But
Mm.
I was really happy to see the third running fabric
Yes.
sustainability in Japan open source data. So they did the research project on how did Japanese consumers view more sustainable brands, and
Hmm.
they published all their research for the third year in a row. They had a big event this year in Tokyo. They
Hmm.
brought in a lot of change makers and thought leaders at the seminar, but also did workshops for people who were trying to start to be
Yeah.
more sustainable. What
Mm.
is B Corp, for example? So it was wonderful, and they were a real highlight for me this year. I was able to go up to the event and be part of that, but also just having that data open to
Yeah.
everyone, right?
Mm.
So many, like even the Japan Times, they have a paywall. So
Mm.
that information is not available to everyone. So it's wonderful to see Fabric still going.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really impressive, and the work they've been doing on that report, particularly, I think is really valuable to a lot of organizations. So I'm really frustrated I couldn't make the event. I was out of the country at the time, but no, hoping I can make the next one. They're doing good work.
Well, you did a collaboration with James Hollow at the
Yes.
women's event in the beginning of the year, right? Or end of
That's
last year.
last year, wasn't it? Gosh, it's gone very quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we've been sort of collaborating with Fabric for a while now, and very happy to work with them on stuff like this. So it's good.
What was your next one, Tuva?
So my second point was looking at cross-sector collaboration. So I think just over a month ago, perhaps it was November, I think, I was asked to moderate a panel at something called Why Ship Yokohama. Wasn't quite sure what it was at the time. But it was the panel I was moderating was on green transformation, and the whole event was over a couple of days, and it brought together people from very senior representatives from national government, from local Yokohama government, from academia, from small businesses, big businesses, entrepreneurs, from schools. It was really impressive to look at. To hear all the different voices and see them all getting involved, and they really wanted to showcase what Yokohama is doing as an area on sustainability, and sort of open that up globally as well. So a lot of it was done in English with simultaneous translation or vice versa. So it was really accessible to a lot of people. So the panel I was on, I had a wonderful lady who was from Yokohama Minato Mirai 21 Heating and Cooling Company, so quite a long, long name to remember, Keiko-san. And she was talking about how they've got over 65 different companies now, Eriko-san, sorry, not Keiko, and how they've got over 65 organizations in the local area, all sort of tying up for their energy usage, to track how much they're using, to reduce the amount of energy they're using by sort of sharing loads and infrastructure and so on. Then there was the Yusan from Harch organization, which is a smaller organization, but doing a lot of media awareness on sustainability, a lot of community events. They've done some in our local area as well, sort of getting just the average people on the street talking about sustainability and saying, well, this is what you can do in your area, and let's think about packaging, and let's think about how we're buying our groceries every day, and sort of running workshops and events on things like that. And then Eric Kawabata from TerraCycle, who are a really exciting organization that go and get the kind of the gourmet, what's gourmet in English? Garbage that
Yeah.
brain
That's
stop.
hard to recycle, and
Yeah,
they have a
exactly. The
recycle
stuff,
stream, right?
yeah, the stuff that doesn't usually get recycled, like toothbrushes or the inside packets from medicine, from pills and things like that, that usually doesn't get recycled, or people think it has no value, and they take it away. They break it down into base materials, which can then be used again. So working with huge organizations like Eon to recycle plastic to make new shopping baskets, for example, or to introduce their loop system, where people can buy, say, a bottle of ketchup or whatever, but it's in a reusable bottle, and they bring it back, and that's recycled properly. So it was really interesting to hear how all these organizations are really working with communities, with other organizations in the local area as well, because none of us can do this alone, right? Change requires systemic change, or if it's going to be successful. So it was really encouraging to see that happening.
Yeah, in my local Eon Mall, I like to see the TerraCycle section and notice what they're doing. So it's a loop system. So it's all the containers are being reused instead
Yes.
of single use. That's the
Yep.
biggest difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to see that section grow, right?
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of products there, but it's the fact that it is in Eon malls all across Japan. That's a huge step in the right direction.
It's massive. Yeah, it really is. And in terms of building awareness for consumers on, what's possible, I think it really is a significant step. So hoping to see Loop expand more in the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had to let my cat in, and then immediately went right through the paper, showed you doors. So I guess I have a new project for the winter
Oof.
holidays. For some reason, cats don't mind going right through the paper doors. And really, why do we still have paper doors in Japan in winter? It doesn't
They're
work.
very pretty, but not so practical.
So you may have seen me let the cat in and then surprised that my shoji door is now destroyed. That's okay. My third point actually is about food. Now, I've been watching so many YouTube videos about the necessity of having more sustainable, secure food systems. And so I just want to shout out and say thank you to all the people that are providing organic, sustainable food for us in Japan. Tengu, Alishan Tengu has just been a resource for me since I first came to Japan in the 90s, early 90s, of vegetarian food, organic food, and they really support local community. I know that they're also helping with food banks around Japan. And my latest delivery had so much less plastic than usual. So I see even this very sustainable company is always improving and always getting better, which is fabulous to see.
Yeah, Alishan are really trailblazers, I think, in that, aren't they, here in Japan?
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a shout out to the other organic farmers who have been on my show. We've got Chuck Kaiser, Midori Farms in the Shiga area, just outside Kyoto. We've got, this is a rural area. Oh, sorry, these are people doing akiya. Back to what I was talking about before, we've got JJWalsh in Tokyo, and I think you've worked with him as well. He's done such great education projects, showing people how to grow food even in urban areas, which is wonderful to see.
Yes.
I was able to visit Heather Fukase in Nagano at her organic farm in just above Matsumoto City. And it's fabulous to see that she has actually been able to encourage other farmers around her area to try a little bit of organic themselves. And it really has a bigger effect than just what she's growing.
Yeah.
Kyle and his group, the Permaculture Center in Okayama, are
Hmm.
still going, doing lots of great events there. But also in the beginning of the year, I had a chance to go to Fukushima, and I met Just Kraut and his project, taking hydrogen food trucks out
Mm.
to organic farms and natural farms in the area, and
Mhm.
bringing great chefs and bringing people to the farm to enjoy a table to farm
Mm.
event with a hydrogen zero emissions truck. So there was a
Fantastic.
lot of great initiatives and wonderful organic farming, people growing food, people highlighting those who are growing food this
Mm.
year. And we need more of that, because in
Yes.
Japan, we still have such a steep decline in people who are growing our food, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that note, to add to the food thing, so one of the companies we love working with here, both as a customer but also collaborator, is Farm Canning, based in Zushi, who buy the from the local organic farmers. They buy up the ugly veg, the mottainai yasai that would otherwise just the shops won't take it because maybe the skin's not perfect, the shape's not perfect, or this, that, and the other, and they use it to make the most amazing sauces. And they also do sustainable catering. They've catered several events for us over the years. Absolutely beautiful food. And quality is amazing, and just because it happens to be made from the ugly veg, you wouldn't know to look at it, and of course if it's in the sauce nobody cares and stuff. So I think that's such a great example of a small local company working with local farmers to solve a problem for the farmers, so they still are able to have a market for their veg. The food doesn't get wasted, and it makes really wonderful products that people can enjoy.
Fabulous. Also, one of the big things that we should all try to do is eat less meat and fish. And so, shout out to Healthy Tokyo. We just got a present of one of their amazing vegan cakes to us
Mm.
for Christmas. Absolutely fabulous. We had a startup I talked with this year, Vegan Osaka. They're doing a lot of comfort foods, which are completely plant based. And I know there is a lot of movement
Mm.
this year. And I think that is also in part to the open borders
Yeah.
and more international travelers coming,
Mhm.
asking for vegan, vegetarian things, which are hard to get in Japan. So hopefully in 2024, we're going to see even more things on
Yeah,
offer.
it would be great to see more options there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the last, did you have one more, Tova?
Yeah, so my final one was just to sort of a comment on, we've really, I mean, we knew about it, we've been thinking about it and trying stuff out over sort of many years now, but really this year, the power of transformative experiences, as a mechanism to help people change mindsets and from then on into changing behaviors. So the One Young World Summit, we've been going now for since 2018, with groups of young leaders from our clients, and just seeing the power that this 4-day summit with young leaders from all over the world and change makers, thought leaders coming together, and the power that that can have when people then come back to their own work to say, okay, well, I can be a change maker too. I can do this. I can, whatever organization I'm working for, I have the agency and the power to do something. And also this year we did the sort of pilot program in Kamikatsu, I think I spoke about last time, and just seeing, we had the follow-up workshop a week or 2 weeks after we came back from Kamikatsu, and just seeing the shift in people's mindset just from that 3 days, looking at compost and sort of waste recycling and local social initiatives and social businesses as well. Just the changes in mindsets of the participants in that program was so impressive. We did a sort of before and after thing. So we do this thing called ecosystem impact mapping. So before we went to Kamikatsu, we got people to map out um, in groups what did they think was the impact relationship between their organization and people and planet in both positive and negative, and in two directions, like from the company to people and planet, and from people and planet onto their organization, their business. And it was interesting to compare then when we did the follow-up workshop. Okay, look back at what you did in that first section, what you thought were the impacts that you were having, and what you thought were the risks or the opportunities for your organization in connection to sustainability. Completely changed. Like one group said, we're going to just scrap it and redo it. We got a completely different perspective now on these issues, how they're interconnected, what we can do as a company, what we should be doing. Our responsibility is much more than we thought. It was really exciting to see how much that shifted. So really looking forward to doing more of that kind of work in 2024.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Kamikatsu you mentioned, which is part of my looking forward to next year, because
Ooh,
I'm one of the judges for the 2024 Japan Travel Awards.
fantastic.
And Kamikatsu has been in the past for the Hotel Y. And
Mhm.
this time they also have another organization, the eNow
Okay.
organization, which does farm stays and local experiences. So it's great to see Kamikatsu also
Mm.
developing, right? And
Yes.
like you said, when you take people there and they see
Yeah.
these businesses, they see people who are making it work. They're
Yep.
doing it every day. It's not
Mm.
just SDG, check that target.
Yeah.
It's part of what they do as a business, is part of what they do living there. And I
Yeah.
think for people to see that in action,
Mm.
that's hugely powerful, right?
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
What do you have coming up in 2024? What are you looking forward to?
So, many things. One of the first things, and the one I'm particularly excited about, is in or on the 7th of March. So it's not publicly announced yet. We will be putting out official comms in January, but the 7th of March we've got sustainability in HR event. So it'll be panel discussion and workshop hosted by a really interesting company called Userbase in Tokyo, which have been very progressive in their thinking about sustainability and their reporting. They've just started doing that and taking a very innovative approach. And their whole office is designed with sustainability in mind. It's a very interesting place to be. And it's in collaboration with MUFG, one of the biggest banks in Japan, and SK Group, which is a massive conglomerate from South Korea. So we're really excited to look at what is the connection between sustainability and HR. So I did a short presentation at a conference back in October on this, and it sparked a lot of interest with, and actually the head of global HR for MUFG was there and came and spoke to me afterwards and went, why don't I know about this? What's going on? And let's do something on that. So that's sparked off this event, and we're going to be looking at how HR as a function could be supporting the people side of transformation in companies, which is really, really needed. Of course, the processes and the systems and the setting the goals and the strategy, that's incredibly important. But if people in the organization don't understand what's going on and aren't on board with it, nothing's going to move. So I'm really, really excited to get HR people involved in this conversation and then see them take that back to their companies and hopefully sort of unlock some of the places where things are stuck and get it moving.
That is fabulous, because if we can get the HR people to think about sustainability, start
Yeah.
training and
Yeah.
supporting their staff to feel like that,
Yeah.
that's going to just transform not only the businesses themselves, but wider, because the
Yeah.
staff will take it home, those ideas as well,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. So that, the reach,
Fantastic.
the influence of HR is everywhere within the organization. So I'm really excited to work on that.
That's great. Any targets for you personally in 2024? For me, one of my targets for 2024 is I'm going to read more history
Ooh.
about women in
Uh-huh.
Japan, because I have one of the biggest complaints I had going
Mm.
to destination consulting, going to museums and doing consulting, was
Mm.
there are not women represented in history in most
Yeah.
places in Japan. So my personal dedication to learn more about the women in Japanese history, and
Mm.
currently as well, what are women doing in
Yeah.
Japan? We need to highlight them and promote them and talk about them more. And then it enters history. We are making history right now, right?
Yes, yes. Gosh, let's hope so.
Anything for you, Tova? Any
Um,
personal targets?
To be honest, I haven't thought about it in detail yet, although, I think, just sort of personal and work, looking for a better balance. I think mental health has been a huge issue, coming through COVID. A lot of people have been talking about it, been reading a lot on that as well, and about, thinking about the sustainability of ourselves and keeping ourselves healthy so that we're able to do the best work we can. And 2023 has been incredibly busy, very exciting, lots going on. But perhaps looking for a better balance in 2024 and being a role model for our colleagues that are working with, but also for my kids as well, so that it's not all work, 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 and they can see a better balance there. So maybe I'll try and do something a bit more about that.
That is always a great target. How to balance, have better balance in our lives, have better balance with sustainability. It's all about balance too, right?
Yep, very much so, very much.
Yeah. Well, great. Tova, thank you so much for joining again. Thank you, everybody, for watching and watching on replays as well. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And we really appreciate any likes and shares if you would like to share it with a friend who's maybe inspired by some of these topics as well. Thanks so much, Tova.
Thank you. Happy New Year, all.
Happy New Year. Take care. See you next year, everybody.